Hello, Slush. How's everyone?
Hey!
Thank you. How's everyone? Okay. Everyone's still awake, hopefully. So, absolutely thrilled today to be joined by Sebastian, who's really, I think, one of the absolute amazing founders that we've produced in Europe over the last sort of 10 or, in your case, 15 years since Klarna first started. The first time we met was, I think, just over 5 years ago, around 5.5 years ago. Do you maybe want to just give the audience a sense of what's been happening at Klarna in that period?
Oh my God, it feels like a lifespan.
How long have we got?
Exactly. No, but very quickly, I think we've really transformed ourselves from a payments solution into a full retail bank offering. We have a card live now, we have a full app with a lot of features, and at the same point of time, we've become a truly global company.
Yeah.
So we are now growing super fast in the UK, in the US, and really established ourselves in Europe. So yeah, a lot of great things, and really,
And you've grown to 3,000 people.
3,000 people, we do 1 million transactions a day,
Yeah.
And we have 70 million users worldwide.
Okay, so quite a lot has happened in the last 5 years. One thing that probably hasn't changed has been your focus on the user experience. Like, give us a sense of why that is so important to you and for Klarna as a brand.
Well, I think that the user experience represents the whole, the whole business in a way, right? I mean, in essence, what I often find is kind of interesting since we work a lot with e-commerce, and I sometimes meet the CEOs of large retail companies.
Yeah.
And even today, even in almost 2020, soon, right? I can talk to the CEOs, and to them, it would be totally natural that they couldn't do their job without going into a physical store, going around, getting the sense for, is the product well placed? How does it look? What's the experience like? And they have barely visited their own website,
Yeah.
right? So like, the whole user experience that is the experience, right? That's the creation of what you're trying. What you're trying to create. So that is what is so crucial about it.
Yeah, I guess we're living in a world now where consumers are more likely to buy a pair of sneakers from the back of an Uber than maybe going in store, right? So the interface they're experiencing is really, I guess, the key experience that they're going to encounter.
Yes, and at the same point of time, I do feel that unfortunately this kind of over-focus on data is to some degree stifling innovation and creativity.
Okay.
So, because what's happening is like, if Facebook puts this button in this place, then that teaches customers to do it that way. And then if you then put your button in the same place and the icon looks the same, your data is going to tell you this is what customers want.
Right.
So unfortunately, a little bit what we've seen in the last couple of years is a lot of everything looking the same and not really being different as well. And I think that that's one company that I feel isn't doing that is Snapchat, which is really trying to create a different own user experience.
Right.
And I think that's what we're trying to do at Klarna as well. It's like, yes, in some cases, obviously, you want to be guided by what your customers are used to and what makes sense, what's easy.
Yeah.
Easy simplicity is very core.
Yeah.
But it's also about giving that extra touch.
Sure.
Creating an emotional experience, something that's different. One of the things we've designed at Klarna is this dog that's chasing its own tail, which is small animation. And when people are waiting for something, unfortunately, sometimes they do have to wait for a process. Instead of having a very boring iconography, you have something fun there and interesting. Sure. And that creates an emotional connection, something different, right?
Sure.
So I think user experience is both about the simplicity, ease of use, but it's also so much about creating surprise and delight, create something different, something that people resonate with.
Yeah, those small moments of delight are really important. So would you say that it's the case that you're data-led but not data-driven, or is that a tough thing to pass?
I think you need to look at the data, you need to learn, and you need to obviously find the balance between those two things. But I think in general, some of the over-data focus has led people to create very similar solutions, and nothing sticks out.
So give me a sense of how that impacts your day-to-day work at Klarna. So is everything put through that kind of mindset?
Well, I think we try to. Now, obviously, now we're 3,000 employees. So unfortunately, even if I would love to review every screenshot, every mock-up, it's hard for me to do that. So what we're trying, obviously, to teach and challenge people is to really care about these things, to really have that as part of how they're thinking of when they're developing products and testing them, obviously bringing them to customers, focus groups, like any data, anything that helps you understand.
Sure.
And in some degree, I also find that very well because like if I come and say to some people internally, I'm like, this user experience isn't good enough, people don't really listen that much. It's a little bit like, oh my God, the mom is complaining on me again. Like they don't care. But if a customer is sitting next to them and saying, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do there,
sure,
it really comes to heart.
Sure.
It makes them feel like, wow, we need to do some changes here. So I think
so give us an example of maybe a change you've made where you've seen users behave in a certain way and you thought, actually, we can optimize this in a way that really is going to be a better experience for them. Is there something you can reveal?
No, I think it's. I think we try to do that all the time, really.
Right. So it's a constant process.
Yeah. For
sure. So you said that you sometimes when you're going to some of the product people, the designers, they kind of are more interested in the customer point of view than your point of view. So give us your point of view on what is a great user experience. If you were designing a product from the outset, maybe, what's it got to feel like? What's it got to be like?
I think it's
using it.
I think it's one that's not in your face, so you shouldn't really think about it. It should just be smooth. I mean, at Klarna, we're very obsessed about the concept of smooth.
Yeah.
It's the word that we kind of breathe and think about. It's in how we communicate. We even got Snoop Dogg to change names into Smooth Dog to help us promote this concept. He actually became an investor in the company. He got so inspired by what we're doing from a smooth perspective. So I think it's very centric around that. But it is, again, coming back to... And to be honest, like sometimes I'm almost like, I'm confused when companies ignore this. I can't understand. Like, I'll take a very concrete example. There's been a new regulation now. PSD2 has put challenges on how to keep credit card numbers and stuff like that. So I have two taxi apps in Stockholm. Yeah. I have Uber and I have the local Taxi Stockholm company. Taxi Stockholm has concluded that I need to enter my credit card number every time because of new regulations. With Uber, I can just click and pay as before. How can it be? Yeah. And how can one company not recognize how important this is?
Sure.
And I don't want to use that app. I just want to use this one. It's so much easier.
Yeah, of course.
Like these things are so fundamental to the success.
Sure.
So I'm almost sometimes like surprised. How can people not care more about this?
So how is Klarna different then? If you're thinking about that sort of like that ease of use, how do you think Klarna is different from other payment providers, other challenger banks? I
think what Klarna, in my opinion, and I'm going to be a little bit cocky here, I think we have been fairly early to recognize and see the opportunities and the value that we can bring to customers.
Yeah.
I've seen so many of the more prominent big guys copy a lot of our ideas and concepts. And that's always been a frustration to me because we haven't been in the US market. So nobody knows that we did this first or better. No. Because everything is so US-centric. What I'm really happy about now is we're in the US competing with those guys, so we can lead and show and innovate first.
But presumably you've got quite an advantage, because having lived in the US for some time, US banks are hardly the most kind of advanced when it comes to user experience and actually kind of customer experience. Presumably if you're coming from a European background, you've already got a head start in that market, I would argue.
I would say so. I think it comes back to internet and payments in the first 2010 was all about safety. It was about creating safe solutions. In 2010 to 2020, it's been about simplicity, the one click. Yes. Everyone's been one click. And now it's still not actually entirely solved. I still have a lot of experiences where nothing is one click. It's feels like takes me 50 minutes to do anything. But the question is, what's 2020 to 2030? And what we're trying to do is solve one click, but then think beyond that. What's the next thing that's going to drive innovation? And to us, it's really about all the friction points associated with e-commerce, with shopping, with online, returns, seeing what you see. And then in general, that's the direction of retail banking, right? Yeah. So when I think about where is retail banking heading in the future, I see a future where I wake up in the morning and my computer tells me, hey, I looked at your mortgage this night and I realized you could save $10 a month by switching, do you want me to do the switching for you?
Yeah.
And the answer will be obviously yes.
Yeah.
And in that market, where's the profit? Where are the banks making money? Nobody's making money anymore, right? So the point is, but the purpose, like where you're going is basically, it's a personal assistant.
Yeah.
It is about building, the next future of fintech is about building a company, an assistant that takes your data and not for the benefit of yourself, but for the benefit of your customer, uses that data to create value for you, to save time, to save money, to make you more understand your own economy, to feel less worried about it. These are the things, and that's the next generation that we're pushing now already to go into that, because we know the next decade is going to be about that.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So maybe a way of kind of like looking at that is that it's banking that goes beyond the transaction, right?
For sure.
There's value within the entire chain, and
Yes.
you're able then to ensure that your customers are supported or have other products and services available to them through that relationship you're having with them, built on the design, built on the user experience.
Very much so.
So that, I guess, leads to my next question, which was like, just generally, not just talking about fintech, but just generally, we've got a lot of entrepreneurs, people building products here. How do you think, what's the value of UX? Fundamentally, are we now living in a world where all digital products, all digital services are almost kind of design-led? That's where the real value is.
Yep.
Than in the sticky parts of the real world.
Yes. No, I couldn't more agree.
Yeah. So on that point then, like how much is that where the real advantage is going to be for people moving forward? Like the differentiator is going to be UX as much as the actual service or the product?
I think UX will definitely matter. I think there are two other things that I'm also seeing coming, right?
Yep.
So people talk a lot about AI. It's a little bit like self-driving cars. 3 years ago, they were supposed to be in the streets by now and driving us all the way, and they aren't. And AI, a lot of times, is just a pretty good algorithm. However, with that said, the ability to take the data and create value out of it is essential. And one of the things that we realized at Klarna, why we said, why are we going to win in this space? Because there's going to be a lot of other people that see this, is that on every transaction that Klarna processes, we have SKU level data. Not only do we know that you bought for 500 or 50 euros, we know what items did you buy.
Yes.
So when you open our purchase history, you see images of the items that you bought. That creates a very different experience. That allows us to use that data to create a better experience for you. So I think that like using the data in a good way for the customer, for the benefit of the customer, is going to be what comes after it. I mean, obviously, then you need to put that in a great UX, present it in a good way,
sure.
Make it available for the customer. So that's one thing. And then there's actually another thing, which is slightly more boring, but quite interesting as well. It's just that like in retail banking, if you look at the big banks today, a massive amount of their cost is IT systems, where the same systems today can be built at a fraction of that cost.
Sure.
So there's also going to be part of the disruption we're going to see is going to be basically cost-based, where simply the newer players into the market, the fintechs coming in and in other markets as well, are simply have a cost advantage.
Sure. And also, I guess one of the advantages that startups have is speed. Able to iterate very quickly.
For sure.
How do you balance that out, the desire to iterate the product and ensure it's that it's first to market, but also ensuring that the UX is as you would like it? It's a tough thing to decide, right?
It is. I feel sometimes we're still missing on that one. I think it is a balance between the quality of the product you bring to market and your ability to kind of iterate and try.
Yeah.
So it is a hard balance, but to be honest, to some degree also it comes back to the quality and passion with the people you have in the company.
Sure.
So if you're really, really good at something, you'll be able to do it with high quality and fast.
Yeah.
If you're okay good, you'll be able to either do quality or fast. And if you're not good at all, you're not going to do either. So, so to some degree, I think it's the ability to attract, but also give people who are passionate like that the right environment and space to allow them to be creative, to give them the prerequisites. Like I'm so much of my focus today is like, how do I make sure that every person working at Klarna has, we're setting them up, we're creating the environment for them to be able to be creative and passionate and drive the things forward and really own their own results.
Sure.
The more we do that, and the more such people we can find and attract, the more likely we are to be able to balance between those things.
Sure. And you've expanded enormously internationally in the period we're discussing, that 5-year period. What have you learned about UX in different marketplaces as you've gone to other, markets that maybe, have different tastes, have different consumer needs? What have you learned about how scalable UX is?
Well, I think the one interesting thing that I've seen is that, actually, I've been surprised with how slow it goes, to be honest. And for whatever reason, I don't know, in Europe, and specifically here in the Nordics, Klarna has had this product in the market called Klarna Checkout that makes it basically a one-click experience, super easy to buy. And it's been live and everyone in these countries recognize and use these products. And then I go to the US, and I'm still sitting down with a massive retailer today, even though Amazon's been around for 20 years doing one click.
Yeah.
And I go to a checkout, and it's 20 steps, and all these unnecessary fields. I'm like, how can this be? I don't get it. But I think again, it's the older generation that was retailers, and they were thinking about the stores more than anything else. And if I would come to them and suggest that in a store, every time you go and buy something, you have to enter this log questionnaire and go through a 20-minute process, they would say I'm nuts, right? But in online, they don't test it, they don't use it, they don't see it, they don't think about it. And to me, it's just people are talking about digitalization. It's just a new channel.
Yeah.
But customers want to have a great user experience, smooth, be able to do what's valuable for them and then move on, right?
And it has, if you're thinking about kind of maybe generational shifts, has that been something that's been important for your business?
So I do think definitely you see that, and it's kind of funny in a way, right? But the younger people are, in my opinion, the less patience they have. So, even a fraction of a weight, this takes too long, too many steps.
This dog's been chasing its tail for too long.
I think there is some correlation.
Yeah.
And I see it in myself as well. We get used to these services, right? So with all the services we have today, whether it's an Uber or, Google Maps to transport yourself or, e-scooters or whatever it is, these things, all of us are growing more and more impatient with any friction, anything that disturbs us, right? We just want to be able to do whatever we want to spend our time on, and we wouldn't expect it. I remember, my parents came from communist Poland. They used to queue for 2 hours to buy food, right? Very different experience. Not a lot can us imagine doing that today.
Well, I'm going to have to get used to that after Brexit.
Yeah. Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
We'll see.
We still want you guys to stay, so we really hope that you change your minds.
My mind has been made up on that issue for quite some time, but sadly, we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah.
So we couldn't have you here today really without sort of talking a little bit about the changes you've seen over the last few years within the European ecosystem. It's been quite a journey over the last decade. Here we've just had the State of European Tech report that Ben presented earlier with Atomico and Slush. Give us a sense of how you see things today. Where are we at with the European ecosystem compared to maybe where we were 2005, and also compared to maybe other marketplaces like the US, like Asia?
Look, I think it's a dramatic difference. When we started Klarna, and I was 23 years old back then, so I'm still not that old. But it's 15 years, obviously. I think the only European company at that point of time that had really made it in this tech was Skype and Niklas Stenström and the team behind it. There was nothing else. And that was a massive inspiration for us. They exited to eBay just a year after we started or something. And it was a massive inspiration. Look, you can actually build these kind of companies from Europe. In my school where I was studying, at that point of time, 7% wanted to start a company. Today it is 70% that wants to start a company. And there's a massive ecosystem here in Finland, in Stockholm. Obviously Stockholm has major success around this. There's money there, people have exited, there's angel money, startups can get funding. you used to talk about the issue of funding. I don't think it's an issue anymore.
At every stage. I mean, seed and Series A seems pretty, liquid at the moment. Do you think we've got the ability at later stages to...
I think all of these things have become massively better than they ever were. And also, very importantly, access to people who have grown fast before, that understand how do you build an organization, how do you scale it fast, how do you make it work. All of these things were very novel territory for us, for Spotify, for these companies when we were growing, and very little local support existed to basically guide you through these things.
Sure.
Today, a lot of people have access to such things. The thing that's really is a problem, I think, the biggest problem in Stockholm as an example is in Sweden. I've heard a number, I'm hoping I'm not misquoting it now, but somebody told me that there are 4,000 engineers being examined every year in Sweden. Klarna hires 400.
Wow.
That is 10%. And I don't know how many Spotify hires and the other ones. And my wife is running a startup, an amazing startup called Milky Wire, by the way. So I'm doing some promotion here to help impactors in the world to fund their causes and help animals and other things. And the thing is that she has a massive challenge hiring engineers.
Yeah.
Right. So the problem we have right now is talent. More than 50% of our engineers are coming from other countries.
Sure.
And at the same point of time, due to the unfortunate development of a very protectionistic, nationalistic, tie that we're having from a political perspective, people are pushing against.
Yeah.
And the challenge for that is it's forcing these companies to not be able to take and create these jobs in these countries. So that's the biggest problem, to be honest, currently. I don't think funding, access to access to advice and all these things are really readily available. And that was very different, 10 years ago.
Do you think, though, that you mentioned 17% of people now in Stockholm want to be entrepreneurs, want to start some kind of venture, be founders. Do you think that maybe the generation that are coming up, you will see more tech talent, people who are actually, able to have engineering skills, and that we're just kind of waiting for those people to come through? Or do you think that the pipeline is always going to remain roughly the same and we have to look for other solutions?
In what sense do you mean? More people will start companies, or?
No, sorry, I just meant that as people sort of think that they maybe want to be entrepreneurs, that they think, okay, when I'm at university or when I'm at school, I'm going to learn the skills that are necessary so that the pipeline of talent will become a bit broader.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think also that, to some aspect, that's why I kind of laugh when I watch Silicon Valley, right? Is that to some aspects, some of it is a little bit of a hype. There's a little bit of it's the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And then now I almost feel like it's not so cool anymore, because now you're not supposed to start a company to make a profit anymore. Now you're supposed to start a company to make an impact and improve the world. And now that's the cool thing to do, and you're kind of odd if you're just thinking about making a profitable service. So these trends kind of shift. But in general, it's a good thing, I think. And you learn so much. Even if a startup isn't successful, what I think people forget about is the learning experience. It's all, to me, I am still driven so much by just the curiosity and the learning, the amazing things you can learn by starting companies. And I think it's a very good thing. A lot, if you 20 years ago would go work at a big bank, or you worked at a big company, only in normal big companies, the way they operate, it's very hard to understand what is it that really makes a difference. How do you really create a business that succeeds? How do you really create something that's valuable for your customers? These things are very, very abstract.
Sure.
In a small company, it makes very much sense. That's why Klarna is also now operating as 250 small companies, because we really wanted to recreate that feeling and way of working that really helps people keeping it close with who is my customer, what am I doing for my customers, and that's also what's creating the sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Right? The sense of purpose comes from, it matters that I come to work every day, right? And then that becomes so concrete when you're helping your customers in whatever way you're helping them, right?
I was going to ask you exactly that question, which is, the company's grown to 3,000 people now. Obviously, culture is so important. As the person, the CEO, co-founder, how do you protect that? How do you ensure that everyone joining, you're onboarding people to just maybe, some of the people who've been there for a long time. How do you ensure that those values are the same, and you ensure that everyone is, got the mission very clear in their minds?
It's super hard. I don't feel that I don't think we ever. I think first of all you got to recognize it's an utopian thing you're striving for. Achieving that to full, you will never, because a company is an organic thing, and you need to continuously put energy into it. But I do feel we're in a much better place we've ever been before. And I think it really comes down to, I think most companies are built in a way that makes sense for senior management. So senior management or the top management, because they are the decision makers, they design the company in a way that makes sense for them. Like, okay, now I control, I understand what's going on. And the problem with that is that the people actually doing the work, people who are coming in, coding, marketeers, whatever they are doing, to them, it's very abstract. What am I here for? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Where are we going? Like, I have no clue. So you really got to flip that around and say, I have to make sure the most important thing is that for the people doing the work, it's crystal clear what we are doing, why we are doing it, how we're getting there, and also that they own it. It's not something I enforce on them. It's something they are part in formulating and putting out for themselves and setting out, right? That is the key, and that's the only way in a large company to create that level of responsibility, accountability, passions, fun, creativity, whatever it is, all these things. So that's so critical. It's very hard to do. I think we have come fairly far at it. But at the same point of time, another thing that we're also saying, which is very un-Swedish, for example, is that Klarna is not a company for everyone. Like, it's not everyone will enjoy that. We are trying to create a very challenging, interesting experience that requires a lot. And you should go there if you want to feel confused. Sometimes you're going to be like, oh my God, I don't understand how I'm supposed to do all of this. Like, that's a good thing. That's called learning, right? That you are like being challenged, and that's part of the experience that we're trying to create. We want you to learn a lot, and you have to have that ambition and interest, right? And not everyone sees their work in that sense. To some people, work is where I go to pay my salary, to pay my bills. And that's okay. I'm not passing judgment on it. Just saying it's different. So we really want to attract people that want to learn a lot, want to be, and want to have impact. Because the learning you can get in a startup, the only advantage to coming to Klarna over a startup is the impact. That is what we can offer, which is that if you do something here, if you create value, if you care about the customers, it's going to have an impact on 70 million people's lives. And that's how we can attract somebody and say, it's a little bit more fun here than in a startup. That's our only way. But the learning experience and the ability to control and be part of the destiny must be the same as it would be in a startup or a small company.
Very cool. Very, very quickly, because we're out of time, you've had an incredible ride the last 15 years. What's next?
What's next is like, look, I'm super hyped. I even though I've been doing this for 15 years, this is my best year. And I think 2020 is going to be even better because I feel we have the right people, the right culture, and there's massive opportunity. And it's really time that, we kill these old banks and their profits away and give it back to the customers. Now's the time to do it. So I couldn't be more excited.
Sebastian, thank you for being such an inspiration to the room, and thank you for spending time with us today. And say hello to everyone from Slush, to Snoop Dogg.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.